I'll start then. Hi everyone, just to make sure you're in the right room, because I think all the rooms got changed round. This is Benidorm, and this is, they call it beginners, but what's a beginner? You know, all of us, we're always at the beginning of this journey. So I'm Peggy Moylan, and I'm a coach. I was a youth worker before that, a targeted manager, worked in the sort of like targeted end of local authority, working with gang members, sexually exploited young people. We did violent extremism work, etc. Then I took early retirement, and as I was retiring, I thought, what am I going to do? And I trained as a mentalised based therapist and with adolescents, but whilst I was doing that, and I was with Anna Freud, and I came across this and thought, oh my gosh, all that thinking about thinking that they teach you in mentalised based therapy, it's so simple when you just know it's your thinking, and that's it. And we'll delve a little bit deeper about that. So that's me in the short, and I do a lot of community work now.
It's going to be ambient. I'm Jenny, Elleray. I came across this in 2005 through Dean with my cousin Anna. It's the first time I've had both of them in the room actually at the same time. And I kind of came to it completely blind. I had no idea what I was coming to. My sister was going to an event in London and invited me along, and my auntie Sue, who's running this, and Anna was there. And like I literally over the 3 days, I can't remember much of what was spoken about, but who I thought I was started to fall away, and like this new space kind of emerged in me. And going from day 2 of the 3-day training, me getting my cousin to introduce us both and say what we'd done the night before, because I'd been so kind of, I felt sick the day before when I had to say my name and why I was there. So I was like, can you just introduce both of us the next day? Please don't make me do it. And it's been such a mad kind of shift, because after that 3 days, I knew that I wanted to share this with people, because whatever had taken place within me, I wanted other people to have access to it. So I wouldn't say I'm the most natural presenter or speaker in terms of, I can still get quite nervous, and sometimes I'm like, why the hell am I doing this? But it felt like what was being pointed to and shared was too amazing to not share with other people. So a lot of the time I'm having to get over myself to do this work. And then some of the time I'm like, I love this, I could do this, you know, all of the time. So it's like a back and forth. But I just encourage people, whether you've been around this a long time or you're completely brand new to this, is just to sit and enjoy and listen. And you don't have to take notes. You don't have to memorize what people are saying. You don't have to believe us. And we encourage questions in this session. But my journey from that point of coming across this has been amazing. It's almost been my upbringing. I was 23, and then I've just been on courses and trainings. Me and my ex-husband created something called 3 Principles Movies, where we got to travel the world and film different people facilitating. We get to see Linda, who had the Department of Drug and Alcohol Services in California, who then took us into the prison system, into stage 2, which is when people had come out of prisons, and just kind of gave us access to so many groups of people who'd been learning about this. And I think that was like this another education for me of like, this is true. Like, regardless of where you are, what's being pointed to is relevant. So it's quite cool having everyone in the room at once, actually. That we encourage questions. We don't want you to take our word for it. And there aren't silly questions. Like, please, we encourage it and we want it. Yeah, is there anything else you wanted to add about this?
No, just to say, this isn't something that you can intellectually find out. And if you're asking the question, have I got it right, then it's not the right thing. Basically, it's insight-based and it's experiential learning, so it's from you, whatever you hear. It's not anything that we can teach you. We're sharing, we're not teaching, and it's from our perspective as well, what we see. So anything that you see, we may not see. It's individual. I just want to say it's not a technique, it's not anything that's prescriptive. You know, it's basically how life works, and we'll go through it. But we want you to share as well, because everybody in this room will have an experience of how life works and, you know, how you see it. So that's really it. If you want to ask questions in the middle, just interrupt us. Or if there's something you want to share or you want to challenge. Sometimes people think, I don't agree with this. Challenge us. It's not something we want to force on anybody, and it's not a cult. When I first came to this, the first real experience I had when I first trained was with Jenny and Rudy and Dave, and I can tell you now, I was thinking, oh my God, is this a cult that I've gone to a cult with your kids? And then very quickly into it, I just realised everything started to drop away. I thought, this is so magical. But what it was really was going back to my true nature. And I had all this conditioning that's layers of things on top of me. So I think we just wanted to gauge in the room how people is this the first time you've come to anything like this? You've heard about the 3 principles? Yeah, very new to it. Other people, how long? To Viva, yeah. And have you done anything in between?
This lady.
Oh, this lady.
Not mine.
Well, your family.
Yeah, we run a conference in Devon and March.
Everybody else? Read books, listen to podcasts, videos, etc. Linda's like research loads of stuff as well. Lots and lots and lots of things. So there's not a time. There's no such thing as I've got 40 years experience, so I know more than you. I have seen people that after one afternoon, like Jenny had an overwhelming experience. It took me about 9 months before I stopped questioning what this wasn't and what this was. So it's different for everyone. And every day we learn so much from children as well. So I've done this little Venn diagram, and we'll both speak to it. But so we've got the 3 principles. It comes in threes. So there's mind, thought, and consciousness. And I can speak to what mind means to me. Please interrupt and feel free to share. So for me, mind is not as in the mind, it's greater. It's the backdrop of life. It's the thing that makes us all tick. It's like the power of life. Anything that happens behind the scenes, things that we can't see, it's formless. It's sort of like, some people will call it God, some people call it life force energy, and some people might call it just evolution, whatever. But it's a thing that operates behind the scenes that we can't see. You can't touch it, but you can experience it. Life is everything. The birds, the trees, the flies, the bees, us, everything that's alive. So that's the behind the scenes curtain. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Jenny, about mind.
It's really weird because we've done it as 3, and it is the 3 principles, but they're kind of a metaphor for the whole. And I know that when I listen to Sid, he'd sometimes mess up the. You'd think he'd have it cracked, like I know what this is, I know what that is, and then he'd like change it around, like thought is the power behind life. It's the universal thing. You could call it God. And so please don't get hung up on the words. But I think when I first came across this, it was the recognition that who I thought I was, the character, wasn't all I was. There was something more. There was something more to us as beings. So I suddenly realised that this kind of limited belief system that I'd kind of lived out of and become wasn't all I had. And I think when that realisation kind of happened, the stuff, the beliefs, the thoughts of everything starts to quieten, and then it's filled with a space. It's filled with new knowledge. And that was way more helpful for my life than anything I'd created before. So it feels like the power of mind is what allows us to be here, but it also is what we are before the stories, before the limitations. So it's the unlimited space, it's pure potential. And I think when I first came to this, I really had a resistance to the word God. Like I think with religion, I really didn't like the word, and then suddenly now I can freely use it interchangeably with mind, because it's not how I'd been brought up thinking of a God as a man on a cloud who judged. It was that there's something that enlivens us. There's something that allows, an acorn to know to grow into an oak tree. So please, if there's a word that you don't like that we use, let it go, because it gets lost in words. But I thought the word that came to Sid, mind, was such a neutral term to describe that same force, that same space.
Yeah, and as Jenny says, interchangeable. You can't have one of those principles without the other. So that's why I've done it in the best Venn diagram. I'm not a great drawer anyway. So has anyone got any questions on mind or any?
Yeah, sorry, I'm very new to it. So from the last talk, when you said consciousness awareness, that resonated. I was like, yeah, okay, got that. And mind, for me, makes me think like it's this brain thing. And am I right in thinking it's more like an energy or
Whatever.
I get thought? And my thinking is probably stopping me from understanding mind. I don't know, it just blows my mind trying to think what mind is.
So if you think, I mean, if we look at it in terms of energy force, so if I was to say to you, in order to watch a film, this is a Kathy Casey typical thing, she would say, in order to watch that movie, you need the power that powers it all. So you need to plug it into the power source. So the power source is mind behind the scenes. And that's what enables us to be here. Whatever, we've all got the same bodies that function the same way, you know, internally. So whatever happens, we're all made in the same way. We're just different on the outside, but, you know, universally we're the same. So before we can do anything, we have mind. Before anything, it goes further back. And it's all part of the same thing, consciousness, thought, etc. But if you think the intelligence behind life, basically, as a lot of people would describe it, is what mind is. And please, anybody else that wants to share that feels they can describe it better, please help us. Yeah? Does that help you a bit? It's the power source behind everything. The thing that makes, some people call it God because it's the way that they see it. Other people call it energy force because it's how we all interact with each other, how we're all formed. Does that help?
Yeah, I think I'm just being open to immersing.
But also, I came back from the 3 days, and if someone had said to me, what are the 3 principles, I wouldn't have known. But I changed. So it's almost, it's not irrelevant, but don't get hung up on trying to figure out what each of those 3 things are, because it's the change that happens is a recognition within us of something we already know. And I think that's the thing that really struck me, is even though it was like, it kind of blew my mind as I sat there, it was the most familiar thing. And then I look back in my life and I realised there'd been times when I was in situations where I didn't have the, within my character, I didn't have the skills I needed. But then something else would take over and seem to move me and live me. So all I would say is these words are trying to point to something that's not in words. And like since having my daughter, I said I've been having these really weird experiences of these memories and these experiences and feelings that don't have language. So when I've been feeding her, I've almost been having this feeling, this memory of being with my mum, and like this connection to my mum's changed through having this. And it's that kind of, we're so used to learning with our intellect. We're so used to learning and hearing in words and taking in information. This isn't an information thing. And throughout time, people have tried to point to that space, and we've come up with words, but it's not those words. Because when I went out to Russia to share this, and there isn't a direct translation for consciousness. So we would say the word consciousness, and the person translating would have to kind of describe where we were pointing when we said the word consciousness. So when people come to, if we're doing like a 3-day with people often say by the end of day 1, when are you going to talk about the 3 principles? So it's almost like you skirt around it, because what you're hoping is that some people just have their own experience of it. But then a definition might come to your mind, and you're like, that's how I see it now. But that might be today, it might be tomorrow, but it's irrelevant to the change that takes place, because you hear from a different place, not from your head. Sorry.
One of the things that opened up for me as a question when I was listening to Mark and now while you were speaking was I remember him saying that Sydney Banks found something and brought it to the world, and a question arises in my mind: what did he exactly find, and how is this different than just all the other teachings and whatever that has been around the world? And why is it relevant to talk about the principles in general, like mind, thought, and consciousness? Why would we continue to point toward them and not just try to cultivate a nice feeling, let's say? And yeah,
I remember, I think it was Linda Pettit said that when she was with Sid, she said, what is this? And he said, it's a metaphor for love. And she said, was that all we need then? And he said, no, love and understanding. So I guess what this brings is an understanding of how we work as human beings. And I think when I came across this, I had no idea that what I experienced was my own mind. I thought there was a world out there that I was subjected to. And suddenly what's opened up is actually you're not subjected to an external world, that we create our own reality. So this message is pointing to the fact that reality is created within us. And I think that's what everyone throughout time who's had insight about life has tried to point to, but in different languages, different words. But I feel like Sid was alive in our time, speaking in a language that's easy to translate, saying, right, we thought that we're kind of living in an external world that creates feelings with us. So I would think that a group of people could make me feel shy. I think that my past was why I was like I was now. And then I came across this and it was like, wow, I'm living in my own thought-created experience. Every single one of us is living in our own world. You're all hearing a different talk because it's coming through your own thought creation. So I think whether it feels relevant to me to point to the principles, because I guess that's what I was listening to when I had my change and my kind of aha moment, whereas someone else might be listening to something else when they have an aha moment. But what I love about this is the simplicity and the fact that it's constant and it's relevant for everybody. I don't know if
And for me, the question that I asked myself, why this and not anything else, because I did CBT, I did counselling as a trainer, and I'm just thinking, when I came to this, there was nothing else afterwards, and that's what answered the question for me. I do not have to search for anything, it was always there, and it's basically taken things away. With counselling and all the other things, it's like drawing us back to the issues. This is about love and understanding. This isn't about what's wrong with us, why are we broken, how can we fix ourselves. This is about just experiencing your true nature. And when you know the truth, and there's nowhere else to search. So that's what makes it different for me. If I was looking somewhere else, then I would be sharing this as well, because it's not like all the other things where, I'll have this toolbox, I'll have this in my toolbox. We're not saying don't do any doing, but you don't need to do any doing once you uncover it all. It's very simple, yet it's endless opportunities and potential. So for me, it's who we are without any clothes on, if you put it in a metaphor. It's the naked truth about every human being and how we experience life. Anything else? I could give you an example of mind that I saw, something that I saw a few years ago. When Grenfell happened, we had a lot of people saying, I really want to do something. And I had this part-time worker, and it's quite emotional when I think about it. And this part-time worker said to me, can I have a week off next week? And I said, yeah, it's really short notice, but it's fine. I just said, out of curiosity, has something happened to one of your family members? She said, no. She said, I want to give up a week, and I've got loads of clothes together and some food packs, and I want to go to Grenfell to help the people. That is mind working in the background with this love and understanding. And to me, that was like an amazing thing, that when we let go of all the stories that we tell ourselves, other people might have been like, I'm so angry with the government, I'm so angry with the people that caused this fire. But she just saw the love and understanding that she needed to bring to Grenfell. That's who we are. We're not here being people that judge, but we do judge through our thoughts. However, when we strip all that back, what we are, our true nature, is love and understanding. All the children running around this morning, we had Jenny's baby and the little girl at the back, Khadija, and they just fall over, they hit each other, and then they're playing again, holding hands. They are so close to this because they haven't been conditioned. We've had so much stuff, layers of stuff on top of us. So that's why I don't point to anything else. Okay. We talk about thought. I mean, you've already referenced it anyway.
Yeah, so to me, the power of thought is our ability to create. It's not just thinking, it's the fact that we have the power within us to create a reality. And we all create different. And I think the thing that changed for me actually was when I heard my husband Dave talk about the power of thought, because he talks about thought in nature, he talks about thought in trees. He said, he was a tree surgeon for 17 years. He would reduce a tree that had taken maybe 30, 40 years to get to a certain size. He'd reduce it, and within a couple of years, it'd be back up again, because there's an intelligence within it that knows. And he said it's weird because when he used to talk about it, people would be like, well, why are you talking about trees? We're talking about thought. And I think when we think about thought, we think about the brain, mind, thoughts. But what Sid was talking about, or I think Sid was pointing to how I understand thought, is that it's the power of thought. It's not before content. And then because we have that power, we get to create a reality, a life. And then it's really hard to speak about. I don't often speak about them like this anymore.
Oh, do you?
It's really weird. But I remember it being described as like the old kind of movie reels, where mind was the energy, then the I don't even know what the machine would be called now. Projector. The projector would be called consciousness, and then thought would be the slide. So you've got the energy force, you've got the awareness or the consciousness, and then what you drop in thought is what you experience as your life, as the movie. And I remember just thinking, well, hang on a minute, that's a bit different to what I thought. That's not how I thought it worked. But what I loved is that if you go back to your own life, you can see that you can start to notice the truth of this. That there's some logic that plays out, that one thing can happen, like someone falls over and you might get 10 or 15 people around and you get different responses. So we don't all respond the same to the same situation or circumstance. There has to be something else going on within us that creates what we then choose to do in that moment. So we're not all the same in that way, but the way that we create is the same. And I think I used to just go with the first thought that I had, because I didn't know I was kind of connected to a deeper intelligence or power. So we all create conditioning and habits and character. Like, I'm watching it in Lucia at the moment. Like I say, the Dave joked to Peggy that she's the park bully, because at the moment she's starting, all of her social skills with other children is happening at the parks and playgroups. So if someone's on something she wants, she'll go and try and pull them off, and trying to teach her now about, okay, no, we have to take it in turns and we have to share. But I see she's just developing character, and it seems the more character she's developing, she's got likes and dislikes and she gets annoyed, but she's so fluid. So I'll think I know what she's going to be like, and then suddenly she's different. So she is using these powers of mind, thought and consciousness to create reality moment to moment to moment. But I think what then happens is we start solidifying things and saying, oh no, that creation is who I am. That's what I am. Whereas actually, as you were pointing to with the kids, they were just like, next moment. I think Lucia had pushed. And then they were holding hands. Then they're holding hands, walking along together. And it's like, they're just next moment. And I think this allows us to see that a creation isn't the truth. It's a potential within the infinite. So within the infinite power of thought, I create an identity of shyness and struggling and problems of eating. And then suddenly it's like, oh, that's a potential within the infinite. And that does not serve me. So I didn't have to think, oh, I shouldn't do that anymore. It's like it fell away, because you start to see this doesn't serve anymore. So I think the power of thought to me is just that infinite potential for a new creation. It's the creative force. How do you?
Right, so for me, I suppose, one of the things that I really struggled with at the beginning when I heard this was, it's me creating my experience. And I said, No, other people cause my experience. Other people cause me to be angry, sad, happy, joyous, etc. And I was like, and the onus is not on me. If somebody steps on my foot, of course I'm going to be angry because they've made me angry. Imagine I switched it around and said, actually, it depends on the day, how I'm feeling, my level of consciousness, on whether or not I'm going to be angry in that moment when someone steps on my foot. Each moment is different. And knowing that I'm creating that story, that picture, is different from day to day, moment to moment, is different for me. So thought for me, the first insight that I've had was, it's actually me creating the story. It's got nothing to do with it. Things happen, really dreadful things happen. Lots of trauma, or lots of different things happen to us in life, but it's how we see it. So I remember doing this workshop with young people and trying to explain what I meant by we create is thoughts in the moment that's creating our experience, our thoughts individually. And someone said, can you give us an example of this? And I said, well, so you get two people that have been attacked by acid. One of them has decided, I'm not going to let this faze me, and I'm going to love my skin as it is, and I'm going to open a cafe with other people affected by acid attacks in India. And then you've got the other person that gets attacked with acid, just takes to her bed, thinks she's ugly, worthless, loses all confidence. They're both extremely traumatic experiences, but it can't be the actual incident that's creating their thinking. It's got to be them. The acid thing's really dreadful, but it's how you see life, how you see that moment to moment. So for me, understanding that I'm creating my experience moment to moment, and everybody is completely having a separate reality at the same time. In this room, you might have, some of you might be thinking, when's this workshop over? They've done a lot of talking. And others might be really engrossed and thought, oh, I'm hanging on to something, I've heard something. I don't know what it is, but I've heard something. So we're all having our individual experience. And that's because we're having our own thoughts that's creating that. It doesn't matter where you are, it only comes from within. So it's innate, it's inside of you, the thoughts that come through you. And then there's the mind beyond that. I think Mark said this morning, see beyond the words, don't listen to us, don't believe me. I've got my own understanding of what this is. Yeah.
I got distracted.
Pardon?
Some babies got distracted with the dog.
Distracted. Yeah, has anyone got any other examples of when they see, is their experience creating it? Or does anyone believe actually other people can make you angry? This is one of the things we always ask children, and they all put their hands up going, of course they do. Can your partner or your friend or somebody in the street make you angry? Create your anger? No?
It's that weird I was thinking about it, in fairness. If I had acid spilled on me, the first thing I would think is not actually I'm pissed off you spilled acid on me. The first thought I would think is, how do I get it off me? I wouldn't be angry, I'd be like trying to fix it. So that gives a different point of view.
So that's that's how you see things happening. And maybe lots of other people would as well. But then somebody else might just think, oh my God, I'm going to die. Or, what's going on? I'm in shock. Or, go beyond that. I just think it's just like knowing that we all have different experiences every single moment of the time means everyone in this room is having their own experience through their own lenses. And I can't tell, we can't really gauge what people are thinking. A lot of, I'd say, psychiatrists, sociologists or whatever, they sit there for an hour, they get paid lots of money, and at the end they'll ask prompting questions because they don't know the answers. They know it comes from you. They'll tell you.
At the time it happens, though, you don't see you've got a choice, do you? You have your reaction and, how I'm going to get off me or whatever reaction you have. And you just, that's all you can sort of see, isn't it? Seeing that wider picture that Jen was saying, that there is a choice. You could have had a different reaction.
That's all about the more you do this kind of stuff, the more conscious you become, the faster you'll be clicking onto that kind of stuff.
I think I remember describing it as just suddenly seeing that you do have choice, where you just habitually act, and then suddenly I was like, you don't have to act how you've always acted. You don't have to go with the first thought. And I remember when I did my speed awareness course, one of the things they say is, why is it good to allow space between you and the person in front of you? And it's like, well, because you've got more time to sort of manoeuvre your vehicle. And I was like, this allows more space. And I think I used to just live like thought to thought to thought to thought and just buy into it so much. And it's like this space that opened up of just, I don't have to go with that. Like I remember when the first time I did a talk at the big conference, it was the first time I would have done something on my own. I'd always like co-present. And I was upstairs, like I'd washed my hands like about 1 million times. And I was just like, if I just stay here, they will like call me, I won't come, and then they'll move to the next person. And I was like, and then something moved me. And you know, you'd talk about that in terms of mind. There's just like this movement, like suddenly, despite me, I was moved down, and then I got to sit and wait, and then luckily they got me to speak first. And I stood up and presented, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, this is easy. And all this stuff just flowed out. And I was like, and then afterwards I was like, oh my God, what did I just say? But I feel like I've forgotten why I even started telling that story. But yeah, I saw there's suddenly the choice. And then at some point, it's almost like it's not the conscious thing about, oh, I've got a choice here or a choice there. You just start living different. And I think later on when I'm speaking, it's called living from an open heart. You suddenly just, your heart opens and you start living from a different place. You have more love, compassion, understanding for other people. You start to see that, well, I live in a thought-created reality and it doesn't look like it. It looks like that happened and I feel like that. That happening made me feel like that. And if that's the world you live in, no wonder people act in ways that they do. And I think it's been such a blessing because you can just see somebody in front of you and you're like, we're the same. We create reality that doesn't look like it, but actually underneath all of that, we're the same. And I used to be pretty judgmental. I remember the thing that really hit me when we were on our first course was watching the people in the prison speaking about this, because I kind of just thought people in prison were bad people. Like I was 23, it was the first time I'd really ever seen anything like that, of people, like actual inmates speaking. And I was like, the stuff that was being shared, the insights that they were having, the realizations that, you know, they acted on a thought, but they didn't know. So they just blindly acted. And that a lot of them were saying they were grateful to have gone to prison to have learned about it. It's like, wow, that's not who I am. Like my actions, what I've done is not who I am. There's so much more to me. So I think what the world kind of praises in terms of beautiful experiences and love, compassion, understanding, all of those things seem to come as a byproduct of understanding that we live in our thought-created reality, and it doesn't look like thought. It looks like out there. And I remember Dr. Roger Mills saying to us, right, when you go away, see if you can find the exception. Is there something that can happen that creates the same experience for everyone? Is there that one thing? Is there an exception? And I started looking in my life, there isn't. And that's what we encourage for people, like, go away and look. Is this true? And you don't have to take our word for it. I know there's people that have come across this and, like Sid would say, there's someone that argued with him, and then on his 70th birthday, he's like, why didn't you tell me about this years ago? It's like, I've been saying the same thing for like however many years at that point. But we hear when we hear. And often it's, you know, later on, or in the breaks, or when you're having a chat with someone, that something pops in that's perfect for you. So,
who is it that came to one of your retreats that does the inside out? I've forgotten his name. Keith. So Keith, whenever Keith used to present at the training schools weekends that we went to, they used to have blankets on the side, and it sounds really crazy. But after about 4 sentences, half the room would be asleep in the front row, and we don't know why. And Rudy used to say to me, oh, we put blankets there because we know people are going to go to sleep. And you come out of there and there's this amazing, well, I came out of there, I can't speak for anybody else, amazing love in the room. And somebody said to me, that a friend of mine, that fell asleep after about 2 sentences, I spent all that money, I can't understand. What's that all about? It puts us to sleep. And I just said, how are you feeling now? She goes, I'm just feeling really quiet. I just said, wow, you know, but you can't, you hear this when you hear this. It's not something, we can say we know it intellectually, but until you see it deep down, you don't know it. You know, it's just another thing, unless you actually see it. And when you experience it, it's just this feeling that, it's just like, I don't know, indescribable. We could be sitting here with you and you think, I don't even know what they're talking about. And as Mark said this morning, go beyond the words, because it's just about this beautiful feeling of who you are. It's the familiarity of who we really are. And, you know, I'm not saying, because people used to say to me at the beginning when I first really got into this and I started sharing it in the community, they say to me, oh, that's not very principles like. And I said, what's principles like? You know, it's not like some sort of cult thing that you do. I said, we are human beings having an experience. And of course I get angry. And of course there's nothing wrong with the different feelings that we have. It's the actions that we take. And when you're quiet, after something happens and you have an experience, it's the slowing down the space that Jenny refers to in between the thoughts, the quietness. That's what's the big thing for me. It's not the anger and the happiness and the joy and everything that goes on. It's the quietness, the space that it allows you to just see who you really are in that moment. And that's what really hones in. It's not about coming back and saying, oh, because you're in the 3 principles, you're never going to have mental health, you're never ill health, you're never going to be anxious, you're never going to be overwhelmed. I told my son something yesterday, which he didn't know for all his 27 years of being on and off in depression. I said, do you know, when I go away, I have moments of homesickness, and it lasts for quite a few minutes. And he was really shocked, because I'm a very confident person that always lives in the present, it seems, and really laid back, and lots of things don't faze me. I've always been like that since I was little. Everybody else would be crying at a funeral and I'd be going, oh, well, they had a happy life, or, you know, that's just my outlook, you know. And I think of the joy that they brought rather than the sadness. And then he was really shocked, weren't you? He's sitting in the back. He was really shocked that I said I actually experience what I call homesickness. And even amongst people that I'm with, I'll be with my family, I just want to be back in my bed. And it lasts for a minute. And that's, so you can't be, I'm in the 3 principles, so therefore I'm never going to experience mental ill health, anxiety, sadness, anger. And we will react, because we're human beings having an experience.
I was going to say, we've just had our 2-minute warning, so
right.
Consciousness in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I think we've referred to it throughout, but to me, I think the thing that felt so hopeful is that I remember hearing it talking about levels of consciousness being infinite. From one level of consciousness, we react and we're unkind. From another level, we might see someone else's, okay, they're having a hard day, but there's infinite levels of consciousness. There's infinite ways to see things. And awareness is what we are. That, to me, is the space. So, again, like you've got 3 days, and you can grab anyone on breaks if there's things that you want to ask. But it's the awareness that we are. Thought drops in. It gives us one potential. There's infinite potentials. So I think you've got like 30 seconds.
30 seconds. And the higher level of awareness that you have, the quieter you are. That's the only way I could really describe it. And there's nothing wrong with having a low level of consciousness. I live most of my life there. Probably 2% of the day I'm probably in awareness at a high level. Probably when I'm sleeping. Thank you very much. If you've got any questions, we're around, and chat to us. And if you've got anything, we do lots of work. Jenny and Dave and I and Connor and lots of other people work together. And if any of you are interested, we're doing a retreat in Ireland, Living Truth, that's my organisation. And then Jenny and Dave are joining us with Gabriella in Morocco next year. So our leaflet's out there. Thank you very much. You've got questions?
What days are they?
Oh, the end of May, sort of like the 24th, something like that, the half term. Round about the half term in the UK. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a quick